Welcome to Coffee Break with JFK. I am your host, Joel Franklin Kinney. It's my first official podcast. I've been doing the video podcasting thing on Facebook for a while, but I kind of want to take this to the next level. And I just kind of ramble. It's just what it is. I just gonna ramble and just kind of share some thoughts, and we'll have some guests on this little podcast. We'll have some guests on here, and we'll do some other cool stuff. And we're not gonna give away prizes or anything like that, but it'll be nice. We're gonna I'm just gonna cover really like just a myriad of all sorts of things and topics and subjects, and we're gonna talk about life. We're gonna talk about love. We're gonna talk about the things that make the world go around: food, wine, film, God, faith, no faith. We're talking about when things are bleak, and I don't know. I just not really an expert. I'm just kind of winging it, but I just know what works for me. And if I can say something that's positive and makes you feel good and is helpful, then I'm all about that. I'm all about it. I'm really excited actually because I'm gonna get my roommate in here and bass player Arnold, and I'll get him on the mic as well, and I'll ask him all sorts of pressing questions. But let's get right to it. Really, let's talk about dads. Oh, let's talk about dads. We all have these different relationships with our fathers. Some good, some bad, some where they're distant, where they've abandoned us, and then others where they're our biggest cheerleader in the universe. And one thing we know about mankind is we're all so varied. Our experiences are so incredibly varied and so vast. That's kind of what makes everything so interesting to me. And I had an interesting relationship with my dad. I think the thing that a very great relationship with my father. In the early days, he was like my hero and couldn't do anything wrong. And even though he was a excruciatingly flawed human being, you don't see that at 5 years old, right? You just see this sort of larger than life, John Wayne, Steve McQueen action figure, who's like can leap tall buildings and is strong and just can do anything. He's Superman, right? And then later in life, when you start to get to know yourself, you start to see all the flaws in those people that you put so much faith in. I'll tell you what though, those first years were great with my dad until he started checking out. And my dad's an alcoholic, and he military guy. 39 and a half years in the Oregon Army National Guard. And, he did his time, and great guy, and fun. It's funny, my dad being an alcoholic, he was actually a really fun drunk. My dad was the type of guy, God forbid you smoke pot, right? But man, if you want to share a beer with him, I'm like, Dad, I'm 6. Take the shot. It's like, he didn't have any, just so bizarre to me. What a different era. This guy grew up in the 50s, when people rolled up their Lucky Strikes or their Pall Mall straights and their, sleeve of their white t-shirt. He was a street rod guy. He loved street rods and loved to race and all that stuff. But he just, I don't know. My dad was just a big talker. Never really had the ripping car or anything like that, but he hung out with all the guys that did, and he worked on them, and he's motorhead. He loves to talk. But there's a period there when I was 10 years old, and Mom and Dad got a divorce, and away they go. Knew things were wrong when you get up, go to the bathroom in the middle of the night, or you go out to get a glass of water, and your dad's sleeping on the couch, or you hear your mom crying in the other room. Yeah. At 10 years old, that's kind of a shaker, But, you start to see how human they are. And it's kind of the situation I'm describing is the way our house was. And of course, at 10, I remember mom coming in and saying, "Hey, um, I think your father and I are going to split. And there's no right or wrong answer, but I want you to know. I need to know, who do you want to live with?" Of course, I'm going to live with my mom. So I decided to live with my mom. And it was okay anyway because dad was by 10, my dad was kind of checked out and just never really around. And but I'll tell you what, my parents got divorced when I'm sorry, my mom got remarried when I was 16 and then moved away to Montana. My dad took over the house we were living in, bought the house back from my mom. My dad moved back in, and suddenly I'm thrust into this parent-son, father-son relationship with somebody I barely know. And I don't want to portray this as like I did not know my dad or who he was, because I'd see him, but he was kind of a bit of a phantom, and it just kind of broke my heart from 10 to 16, you know. But my thrust back into this relationship with my dad, and so at 16, my dad, moves back into the house, and then suddenly this is my dad, and I'm his son, and I'm a long hair, and I'm in a band, and I'm smoking weed, and I'm still playing football, still in athletics, but smoking a lot of pot. Dad didn't relate to that. But boy, at 16, he'd give me a half gallon of he'd give me a fifth of Canadian Mist, 6-pack of Coke, and the keys to the car. Go have fun, Johnny, you know. But God forbid I smoked that horrible, Mexican ragweed, going to hell in a handbasket. And anyway, he didn't understand, So, but about 18, I really realized that, I'm going to be moving out. 19, I was out of the house and moved down to LA. And at that time, my dad really got serious with the woman he's married with now. She's named her. How do you say that? The name we will not say, or she who is never spoken of, something like that. And anyway, Dad, they sells the house off, and they do their thing, and they go play house and get married and all that. And I move off to LA, and then when I was in LA, it's like suddenly I really miss my dad. And what was really crazy was he really missed me. So we corresponded a lot, and I could really tell that my dad was like there for me emotionally, because when we'd speak on the phone, my gosh, it was pretty great. And I moved back to Salem, and didn't move in with my dad, but moved in with my sister. I rented a room from her, and my dad and I got super tight. And about my 20s, early 20s, I was going through some heartache with a girl, and my dad reached out to me one day, and my dad was an old master sergeant. I mean, he was not the type of guy that said, "I love you," And I've always been really sensitive, but he was also a big cuddly teddy bear. I knew he had this sort of sentiment in him. And I remember going through some heartache one time, and he called me, and we're getting off the phone, and I was so devastated. This girl just broke my heart. And getting off the phone, I go, "Hey, Dad, I love you." And he goes, "Uh-huh." Like he always says, "Uh-huh." Getting off the phone. I go, "No, Dad, I really need you to tell me that you love me." And he goes, kind of stopped for a second. It was just in his tracks, and he goes, "Son, I love you." It was really, really touching, and also very awkward too, right? And "I love you too, Dad." And we get off the phone. The next day, he calls me from work, and he worked at the military department then, and he headquarters Stark OMS. That's where my dad used to work. I could imitate his voice too. I even fooled his wife all the time on the phone, because I can imitate my dad. And and I used that one to its fullest potential. I promise you. Oh man. All right. So he called me and he checked out. Hey, I just want to check on you, son. Just see how you're doing, and all that. And I'm like, oh, Dad, I'm doing good. And we talked for a little bit, and then he goes to get off the phone. He goes, son. I'm like, yeah, I love you. And I'm just like, oh, my heart like broke in a million pieces. I'm like, oh, Dad, I love you too. All right, we'll talk later. My dad and I, that was really the turning point. And we got so tight. Fast forward a few years later when he was getting ready to retire from the military. Never forget this. We were in the back room of my grandmother's house, his mom's. And we're sitting there and we're going through this old box of stuff. And he says, the old box of stuff that belonged to like my grandfather, my great-grandfather, my great-uncle, my great-uncle who served in, my great-great-uncle who served in the Civil War. And I had his reading glasses or his glasses, and I put them on. And I just go, Dad, can you believe the guy that looked through these glasses saw the horrors of the Civil War? And he was a Confederate cavalryman, and he had been captured. As soon as he got to the front lines, they took his horse away. He became an infantryman, and they ate the horse. And then shortly after that, he was captured and spent 6 months in a prisoner of war camp. And then they escaped and they ran, and they were on the run for a year, and finally made their way out west. But anyway, I was just talking to Dad about all that, and Dad turns to me, and he's just getting ready to retire from the military. He turns to me and he goes, son, this old soldier still wants to go to war. And I just turned and looked at him, and I knew what he meant. He didn't want to retire. He was getting out on a medical, hurt his back, and he had put on weight, and so they're gonna get rid of you, and so he still could have done a couple more years. And I turned to him and I just went, Dad, I go, think about it, man. I go, you've done something that nobody in your family has done. You've put a full career in the United States military. I go, I'm so proud of you. My dad breaks down bawling, just bawling his head off, sobbing. And he's literally sobbing on my shoulder. This is 95. I was 28. And I remember just like, holy crap, my dad's really, nobody's ever told my father that they were proud of him. Or at least no man. And it dawned on me, my dad did not know what it was like. He did not know how to be a father because his dad was a terrible father. And it dawned on me right then that if I want to make change in my life, and if I want the kind of love from this man that, that I want to receive, I need to show him. And I made it a point to teach my dad the kind of love that he deserved and that I wanted in return. And I have to tell you, it was the greatest thing ever. Our relationship just absolutely blew up after that. And, my dad has dementia now and things aren't good. And I'm watching him just wind down. And it's been so painful. But I got to tell you, I had 30 great years with my dad, or 20, whatever, do the math, 20 some great years with my dad, like incredible years. So blessed. And it was weird because it was mostly dictated to because I was the one that made the change, right? I stopped using everything as an excuse and being a victim, and I started being proactive. And so you gotta give to get. I mean, it's the old adage, right? And I don't know, it's the greatest thing I ever did. I want to encourage you guys to do that. If anybody's got like unsaid business with a family member, uncle, dad, mom, brother, sister, or even yourself, part of it is just forgiving. But sometimes you gotta, especially that older generation of people, they gotta be shown. And I think that's I think that's a really good thing. You know, it doesn't work for everybody. I mean, some people you just can't reach. But the thing was, I knew I could reach my dad because he was so sensitive, and I could see what a teddy bear he was. The One of the most important things in life, I truly believe, in having successful relationships, is the ability to read people and being able to read your audience. And when you're having that conversation with somebody, it's like really kind of pay attention, do a lot of listening, you know, and pay attention when their reaction when you say things. And you can tell kind of if you do that long enough, you can really tell how to read people, and then it helps you handle the kind of uh, the emotions this person has, or the way their personality is, or what can communicate. And sometimes you hit a wall and you have to take a step back and then come forward at another angle. It's like tactics, right? You're trying to take that bunker out, and you got to flank it sometimes, and then sometimes that doesn't work, so you got to flank it the other way. And then, if that doesn't work, just call it an airstrike, which means essentially that equates to bringing in someone else to help. But anyway, I think I think that's a little lesson today. But hey, listen, this has been officially my first podcast, and I want to thank you for joining me, and I really, really appreciate the opportunity to be able to talk to you guys. I hope you enjoy it. Things will get better as they go along, and God bless. Kiss, kiss, and love your brother. I love your dad too.